You start studying with a lot of energy, motivation, and you really want to hit the ground running to finish everything you need to study. But after a few minutes or less than an hour, you start dozing up. You feel really unmotivated and frustrated. The reason is that you are studying the wrong way. I personally have gone through such situation before. Whenever I want to study, I feel motivated and energized, but it gets to a point, usually less than an hour or 45 minutes, I start to doze off. I start to feel frustrated and overwhelmed, and in fact I end up dropping the book and not continue studying at all. But until I start studying the right way and I start tricking my brain, I was able to study 6 hours straight without getting tired. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how exactly you can trick your brain to study for 6 hours plus without getting tired. There are 5 steps that you need to follow in order to apply this particular trick. If you are new here, I'm Abayomi, and right here on this channel, I drop in tips and strategies that can help you study better and improve in your academics. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, please subscribe to my channel right now. Before I share with you the 5 tips that you need to take into consideration in order for you to start tricking your brain to study, there's a powerful neuroscience concept that you need to understand. And if you understand this concept, it will help you apply the 5-step very accurately, and you'll be able to trick your brain into whatever you want to study. So instead of studying for less than 1 hour, you'll be able to study for 6 hours plus without getting tired. The particular neuroscience concept that actually helps me to trick my brain into studying for 6+ hours without getting tired is called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of your brain to rewire itself. Neuroplasticity also helps you build strong habits, sharpen your focus, and make studying easier for you, as long as you keep training it, rewiring it, be able to adapt to new situations. If you are someone that usually gets tired or gets unmotivated after you study for less than an hour, the 5 techniques that I'll be explaining to you with your understanding of neuroscience will help you to trick your brain to be able to study for 6+ hours. The first thing that I actually used in order to trick my brain to study for 6+ hours is that I study in the same place at the same time. That is, I use environmental cues to help me to study at the same place at the same time. Before I started studying for 6+ hours, I study at anywhere I like, whether on my bed or any place. I don't really have a structure or a system that I follow. And because of it, I constantly find myself unmotivated and tired and start dozing off. But as soon as I had a specific place and at a specific time, my brain was able to rewire itself to adapt to that new situation. The more I expose myself to that situation, my brain takes it as a normal thing, and I was able to adapt to that situation. And at that point, neuroplasticity has taken place. That is my brain's ability to rewire itself and adapt to the new situation. So how was I able to do that? To study at the same place at the same time. Even at times, I don't even need to check the time. I just find myself doing it at the same point in time because I was able to structure my habits, and because of that, I was able to resharpen my focus and make studying easier. The first thing that you need to do is for you to make a decision that you want to change, because that decision will help you to readjust and refocus. Then over time, it gets to a point that you don't have to make that decision anymore. So at that point in time, what I used to do most of the time is that I made a decision that I want to be going to school by 7 a.m. to a particular lecture theater where it's very quiet, and I'm going to be studying at that particular place at every point in time. So I made the first decision by going there and look for a quiet place, that is to resharpen my focus. And the first time I tried it, it was very good because there was no noise and it was a perfect time for me. Usually 7:30 every single day. So I go there, I have a particular spot, and I was able to study with intense focus and motivation. Now over time, it gets to a point that I don't even need to think about it again. I just kept going to that same location at the same point in time to study. Once I get to that environment, or once I get to that place, it serves as a signal to my brain that it is time to study. So I don't need to start thinking of, oh, what should I do? Up till now, when I visit my campus in the university, once I pass that place, my brain signals to me that, oh, this is where I used to study, because I've been able to sharpen and rewire my brain to condition myself to that situation at every point in time. So At any point in time when I try to move away from that place and try to study, I don't feel comfortable, I don't feel focused until I go to that particular place. So that's exactly how you can use environmental cues. And also, it doesn't have to be one particular location. You can have different locations. For me, I do in the morning by 7:30, I go to the campus before any lecture. I go to that particular place and I study. And at night also, when everybody's at sleep, I use my room and I stay focused for a very long hour. I get to a flow state to the extent that I lose track of time. There are times that you might be at that location, but then you start getting bored and you start getting unmotivated. The other tips I'll be explaining to you in this video will actually help you to strengthen your focus at that particular place and location at every point in time. Another step that you need to take in order to effectively apply neuroplasticity, in order for you to be able to trick your brain to study for long hours, is to associate study with reward rather than stress. Now, majority of students, especially you, at the mention of study, they start to feel tired, they start to feel pressured, they start to feel overwhelmed. And over time, maybe because while you were small, the people around you was able to associate study or schoolwork to stress and pressure. So the constant feeling of that was able to stick to your brain, and by the time you got old, at the mention of school or study, you start to get frightened, you start to get afraid. Now you can change that through neuroplasticity. Let me use myself for an example. When I was little, I hated mathematics, and anything about school I hated it, because each time anyone wants to teach me, they usually beat me or slap me or be violent with me. They don't try as much as possible to be patient with me, because at that point in time I don't really learn at a very fast rate. Over time, I was able to associate that particular situation with studying. So each time someone tells me to study, or whenever I see someone studying, I start to feel frightened, I start to feel pressured, and I tried as much as possible to distance myself from studying. It got to a point that I started getting interested, but it keeps happening every single time, and it makes me unmotivated. Even when I want to start and I get motivated, I feel pressured and I feel disturbed, and in fact I stopped studying. But everything changed when I made that decision. The first decision, like I said, once you make that decision, you keep doing it until it rewires your brain, and that is where neuroplasticity comes in. So when you rewire your brain and you keep telling yourself that I want to study something fun, I want to have a good time with what I want to study, oh, I really love what I'm studying, just keep telling yourself that. It brings a form of excitement, and if you start doing that over time, it associates excitement or happiness with study. So whenever you hear study, you feel happy and feel excited. And most of the time when I tell my friends that, oh, what I'm studying is really fun, even if it's very difficult, I feel like, okay, it's challenging me and it feels fun. But to them, it feels something stressful, because they've associated stress with studying. Aside from you saying that, okay, you want to study something fun and all that, if you constantly associate reward with your studying, that, oh, I need to study this in order for me to get good grades, and in order for me to get this and this and this. So if you keep associating a positive stimulus to studying every single time, it becomes part and parcel of you, and you feel excited. So whenever you start studying, you lose track of time. You don't feel bored, you don't feel overwhelmed, you lose track of time, and that is when you now get to the deep focus, because you are at the flow state at that point in time, because it excites you. And one particular thing I want to point out is that constantly study what you are interested in, because whenever you want to study, it passes through an emotional check. And if there is not if a positive emotion is not associated with whatever you want to learn, you get discouraged. So whenever you want to learn, and that is why I keep clamoring and I keep saying it, whenever you want to study, constantly study what interests you, because if you don't study what's up, find a way to be interested in whatever you are studying. Because it's not all there are courses in school that I didn't really like. I don't like geography, but then I was able to find a way to study it and pass it in my university. So if you constantly associate a positive response and positive rewards to studying, it becomes something fun to you, and in fact you won't feel bored or unmotivated as you go on. So by the time you go, and in fact let me tell you something, when I say I study for 6 hours, I don't do it intentionally. I just start, I can just tell myself that I want to study this for 5 minutes. Then I find myself doing it for a very long time and I get to in flow state. So now the possibility is that you don't have to intentionally tell yourself that you want to study for 6 hours. You just have to trick yourself to say, I want to study for 5 minutes. Then after these 5 minutes, so by the time you go into it, and in fact it passed through an emotional check and you are excited, you get into a flow state and find yourself studying for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours without stopping. So that is the flow state, and that as long as you love what you are doing. So at that point in time, you are not using a lot of willpower to study, because willpower can diminish, but then you are studying with habits as long as you use the principle of neuroplasticity to rewire your brain, and that is exactly how you can associate studying with something fun and something that gives you reward. Another thing that you need to take into consideration, which is the third step in order for you to trick yourself to study for long hours, is that use productive struggle. Don't just study passively. It happens to me a lot of times. Even if I associate my studying with a positive emotion, even if I have a place and a particular time, this is one thing that keeps me bored anytime I'm trying to study. And this will actually contribute to how well you assimilate whatever you want to study, how well you'll be able to remember, and how exciting it will be, how fun it's going to be and challenging. Now, whenever you are trying to study, don't just study just like that without challenging your thinking, without asking yourself questions. So productive study is when you are active while you are studying. You go through a desirable difficulty by challenging yourself with questions. So when you go on like that, you are engaging your brain, you are active. You don't just go through a long reading and it gets bored over time. So when you constantly ask yourself questions about what you are trying to learn, when you constantly want to associate, when you constantly, am I really getting what I'm doing? Does this relate to what I've learned before? That's a very fun way and exciting way you can learn. When you get to an obstacle, you tend to retrace back and look for ways you can find understanding in whatever you are trying to study. Try to study productively and don't just study, because it's one way to make studying fun and challenging. And one thing I want to point out is that a lot of students don't study for long hours and they feel unmotivated, because when they study for a particular point in time, they get stuck because they don't understand, and because of this, they don't see the reason why they should continue. One thing that you should always do is that keep pushing yourself, and no matter how difficult it is difficult for you not because you don't have the ability to learn it, it's because you don't have the required knowledge to be able to understand whatever you are trying to learn. I encountered this a lot when I was in school, especially my 200 level. I was exposed to mathematical economics, I was exposed to new concepts, and I found it difficult, but I kept pushing on. I kept telling myself that I really need to know this, and I kept challenging myself. And the fact that the interest, it passed through an emotional test, because I really wanted to learn it. So I sought different materials and I spent longer hours studying to be able to get it. And because of that, I was able to get it. I was able to go into the flow state. The fact that you don't understand whatever you are trying to learn, don't let it stop you from learning or keep going or keep studying. And because of this, students tend to procrastinate a lot. They procrastinate because they feel like, I can learn it later. Oh, I don't understand this, I can learn it. Or they even end up neglecting it because they don't understand. So try to push yourself and try as much as possible to find a way to be interested in whatever you are learning. This will help you get into the flow state and study for 6 and beyond. So that is that about that. And also remove the word tired from your study vocabulary. Usually, students tend to say they are tired whenever they are studying, because it's not something that is fun to them. There are points that you can get tired. There are points that you can get a cognitive overload. It is possible, but try as much as possible to not associate the word tired with studying. You can say, oh, I need a break. I need a break, because if you keep associating the word tired, it gets demoralizing. Within that 6 hours, what I used to do is that I go for breaks in between. So it is very important to use Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro technique will help you to study for 25 minutes and go for 5 minutes break. So within that 6 hours, if you keep going for 5 minutes break over time, you keep going for breaks and you keep coming back, you keep refreshing your energy. So it becomes interesting and fun. But not that you just go for 5 minutes break and the 5 minutes break turn to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and in fact you end up not coming back again. But go for 5 minutes break, whether you press your phone or do something, then come back. So that way, instead of associating the word, oh, I'm tired, I need to go and sleep, just say, I need a break. So that point, you are rewiring your brain to adapt to the fact that the word tired is not associated with studying. First of all, you have to make the decision that you want to change. Then after making the decision, you have to constantly do it. And the repetitive process of you doing it, it becomes hardwired in your brain and it becomes an habit. So I hope you got so much value, and I hope every technique that I explained in this video will help you to trick your brain to study for long hours, just like I did, without getting tired. So if you got so much value, please like the video and also subscribe to the channel. And also check out this other video on other ways you can study without getting tired. So thank you so much for watching, and see you on the next one.